Hey guys, Jerry here, just throwing together another demo here for you guys, another demo slash instructional video, I guess would be a better thing to explain. So I'm going to try and keep this this video quick, just so I don't take up too much of everyone's time. So now, as you guys know, I've been doing a lot of development work with the different N64, Nintendo 64 official development tools, like these development cartridges. The partner N64 unit is one that I've been working with, and also you guys have probably seen my the demo video that I did about a year ago, showing how this Intelligent Systems Viewer64 development cartridge operates, and how it was able to load ROMs over this SCSI interface that it has here on the top, that I had to rig up a cable for and whatnot and figure out the drivers and software. So anyway, this is something that I've been working with over the past year or so, 6 months to, it's been about, well, I'd say about 6 to 8 months kind of thing that I've been playing with it on my off time and learning all the different tools that this unit uses in terms of software. And I've found something that's pretty awesome that I want to just take a moment to show you guys, because I think that a lot of you that are into N64 development, doing homebrew code, will be able to greatly benefit from this little discovery that I've made, which is just, it's a little tool, and it really helps out a lot. So anyhow, without further ado, let's move over here. Okay, so this is my Windows 2000 PC setup, in which I use to do all of my N64 related homebrew code and testing and whatnot of the different hardware and all the tools that I've been using. So now essentially what I've discovered here is, for those of you that are into, have used, possibly have bought a 64Drive. Well, I've sort of found a way to use this particular flash cartridge that was released by Retroactive, Marshall H, the one of the pioneers in the homebrew scene. He's been doing this for probably over 10 years, I think. And anyhow, he came out with this really amazing flash cartridge, and it has a USB interface that allows you to do uploading to the ROM space in real time, very similar to how the Intelligent Systems Viewer64 functions over the SCSI interface. Well, the 64Drive does the same thing pretty much. But anyhow, so using that 64Drive cartridge, I figured out something really cool on how to take advantage of that quick uploading feature to the ROM space. So now anyhow, the software that I started messing around with in regards to the Intelligent Systems Viewer64, I was looking at this software for the Code Warrior hardware, which is the MONEGI, I guess, or MONEGI, I've heard different ways of pronouncing it. MONEGI Multi Viewer64 software package. So just to quickly go over what this software does, it's a little graphical user interface software program for Windows, and essentially it allows you to select a file type, use a converter and convert that to a specific format, load it into a converter if necessary, transfer that data to the N64 ROM space, and then run the actual sample or file that you're sending on the console, and run it on the N64. Now, when you think about it, this is pretty much the same thing of what the 64Drive is doing, using the USB interface and some commands there with the 64Drive USB application, DOS application. So just to quickly get to it now, what I discovered about this Multi-Viewer 64 software is that it was compatible not only with the Intelligent Systems Viewer 64, but it was also compatible with the partner N64 PC as well, and also the Code Warrior hardware, the Smart Pack. So you have this piece of software that's compatible with all 3 pieces of hardware, which is really, really fantastic. I was like, wow, that's pretty fantastic. That's really great for developers. So I started looking into it, and what I found out further was that not only does this software allow you to preview images, streaming images over through to the N64, but also for sound files. So now that's really fantastic, and I thought, wow, that would be so great to be able to do using the 64Drive. So now when you look at all the different development cartridges that come out, like this is the Code Warrior hardware here, and they have all different pieces of hardware that you use with the N64 for code debugging and whatnot, and loading files on very quickly for speeding up development. So that was their release. And then you also have cartridges like this, which is Nintendo's release for doing sound development, quick sound sampling and music sampling. Now this is the Nintendo Sound Tools development cartridge. And so this was Nintendo's version of doing that for sound and testing sound files and music files. So now when you think about it, this one piece of software in conjunction with either one of these 3 development tools, whether it's the Partner N64, the MONEGI Smart Pack, or the Intelligent Systems Viewer 64. So with all 3 of those, you could use this one piece of software, this Multi Viewer 64 software, and perform all 3 of those functions. So I'll just quickly show you how it works. So I'll just load it up here. Now I've got my Intelligent Systems Viewer 64 connected. So now please bear with me that I have to use my camera here to record everything. My computer, my old PC, is not able to run any capturing software at the same time. It doesn't have that much power, so my apologies for that. But anyhow, you connect your hardware that you're using. So in this case, we have a Viewer 64 connected. You can actually have 2 connected here if you got 2 on the same SCSI bus. But you can also use a Partner N64 or the MONEGI Smart Pack hardware for the Code Warrior hardware if you have them connected. So what you do is you go File, Open, and you can select different files for previewing. So for instance, if I were to try and view a image file or like a texture of some sort that I wanted to test, you would just select that, open it up, and then it streams it over in real time over to your console that you have connected with the Intelligent Systems Viewer 64 or the other pieces of hardware. And it has this really nice little interface, this loading image previewer that allows you to zoom in and out to the image, and you can manipulate it in different ways, rotate it around, that kind of thing. And it also has a nice little menu selection to doing different things with Blender, Combine, filters, background color, all that type of thing. So it allows you some really nice tools to manipulate and view your texture or your image sample that you're using. So that's really cool for image and texture previewing. Now what I also found is that it can do sounds and song files in different formats. Demo song, and I'll load say for instance an AIFF file. These are different audio file formats that the N64 uses. So just any crash here, I'll try this AIFF file, and there it brings up a preview menu for that particular sound sample, and you can just there's different functions there. You have A to play the file, B to stop it, and then you have Z for information on the sample. So if I hit Z on my trigger on my remote here, it brings up some sample information for that particular file. So I'll hit A, and there you hear the sample. So it's really, really amazing. It's got this nice preview functionality for sound as well as images and textures. So now I'll load one of the different formats here. We have the bin and the binary format along with a pointer file and a bank file, a WBK file. As long as you have all three of those files within the one folder, when you're loading the binary, it plays that particular sample. So I'll try this one here. This is rock.bin. So when I load it, it'll bring up the converter, which allows you to control different aspects of the sample, and also the WBK file location, the pointer file location, frequency control of the sample, how you want it to sound, and different aspects of the sound sample and how it's played and streamed through to the console. So we'll hit OK once we have everything set. Streams it over, and it comes up with this little previewer here to play the sample, and it also displays some information for you about that song sample. So it's really great. And then you have controls on the remote to stop it. So you hit B to stop it, hit A to start playing it again. So it's really great. Anyhow, I'll stop that now. So this is the real handy thing to have about using these different development tools and these development cartridges. Now, what I discovered about this particular piece of software is how it actually operates. And it actually uses some built-in DOS-based converters and some Windows-compatible separate executable files to handle all the conversion, and in conjunction with a special ROM that's sort of partnered with that converter, we're able to quickly load samples into ROM space. And so I thought, wow, I can actually take advantage of this and possibly port this whole process over to the N64 drive using the USB interface. And that's pretty much what I've done, and I'll just show you exactly how it works. So essentially you have this graphical user interface with this multi-viewer software, and it uses different converters, and it allows you access to them. So when you select certain sound formats like an image, it has a specific converter executable that it uses with some parameter settings, and a target ROM, a demo ROM that it uses, like a raw ROM that it'll actually preload into ROM space. And then this converter file here, this converter program, which is like a DOS or a separate executable, based on your parameters, it'll modify and convert, essentially compiling your sample or your image into a ROM format very, very quickly, because it's just targeting that specific sample. And then it overwrites that particular data at the very end of this target program, which is the ROM that's loaded in initially. It will just slap your converted data right at the very end of that, based on this offset for the data address within the N64 ROM space. And so that's the way this works. And anyway, I did some trial and error, and I've managed to port it over all the functionality for doing images, textures, and sound files using the 64 drive with the USB interface. So I'm going to show that to you guys now. It's pretty fantastic. Okay, so what I've done is I've created a little a folder within a zip file, and all the files you need into a one zip file archive. And I've got it set up in a folder called 64Drive Viewer. And so basically what I've done is I have all the files that are needed that I've ported over and pulled from the Multi Viewer64 software package. But I've created these three different custom batch files, one for loading an image or a texture, one for a song file, and then one for a sound effect, so like AIFF files for sounds. And then with the songs file format, you have like the binary in conjunction with a bank and a pointer file. And so anyway, it allows you to do this quick loading using the 64Drive USB feature. So I'll just quickly demo those for you. So now these batch files I've pretty much, you can just go in there and modify. I've got them set up with a basic loading and a couple of pause areas for you to hit key presses, just so that you understand how it's operating. But you guys can just go in there and modify it, take out all those pauses so that you can just constantly load one song sample after another as you load them in. Now I've also included the original batch files in different zip files, just so that if you need to restore them, you can. So now I've got it set up so that it just prompts you to make sure you have everything set up accordingly, making sure you have your 64 drive plugged in and the unit is turned on, and then it's just waiting for you to hit continue. So you hit enter there, runs through a loading compilation there of the default ROM, and then it prompts you to load in your image. So now with using the batch files like this, you can just drag your image right over, right? So for instance, I've got the multi-viewer logo here, so I'll drag that over, make sure it's selected, that your DOS window is selected, hit enter, and it runs through and it converts everything, uploads it to the 64 drive, and then it's just waiting for you to press reset on the console. So we'll just slip over here and hit reset on the console, and there it is there. So now it's loaded. So you power cycle it the first time to get it loaded, and then it's just prompting it for the next one. So say we'll drag over the N64 logo to it. So once it's done, you just hit enter. Now again, you can go in here and manipulate this binary. I've just added this in, but you feel free to just go in here and manipulate however you guys want for loading this file. Now we'll do, say, the song file format. So we'll double click on that batch file, and it comes up here. So now it's a bin and BFX song file format that it's requesting. And that's with the three, there's a pointer along with a bank file, a WBK file that needs to be matching for that particular sound file for previewing. So as long as you have all three of those in the same folder, you're good to go. So here we'll load another sound sample. So I'll go into my sound folder here, and I'll grab that rock bin and drag it over, drop it on, hit enter, and now it brings up this conversion program right from the MONEGI Smart Pack. We've brought that over. This is like a little DOS Windows-based converter. Now you'll notice that some of the symbols here for your slashes, your backslashes, are kind of weird, but you don't have to worry about that. But it does allow you to control the frequency, manipulate things within the sound for that particular sound sample, just the same way it did with the MONEGI Smart Pack and the Code Warrior software. And then you just hit OK, and it runs through this conversion setup that I've done, that I've set up within the batch file. And again, it's ready to ask you to reset on the N64, so you just hit the reset button on the N64, and there's the preview, and it's playing the sound sample just the way it did before. So let's stop with the B button. So now one thing I just want to mention, especially regarding the sound files, when you're previewing sound files, if you load in a sound file at the same time that it's playing on the cartridge on the console, you're essentially overwriting the ROM space, which is, with the 64 drive, it's actually RAM, I believe, or it's implemented within the FPGA. And so when you overwrite that, you can mess it up and you'll get static coming in. So for instance, I'll just demo that for you just so you can see it. So here it is, and it's going to play it. So there. Now, if you were to go and change this while it's left playing and load in a new sound file, so let's go ahead and do that while it's currently playing, and I'm going to throw in the groove bin. Enter. Converted. Still playing. There. Notice that. Now that's because we've overwritten the memory space, the compilation of how it was converted specifically to be heard, you've completely changed that, so now it's making noise and it doesn't make any sense, right? So you have to remember that. Anyhow, just wanted to point that out. So you got to make sure that you hit stop on your remote here. If you don't want to have that, hit stop so that it reads stop before you go in and load your next file. So just making a note of that. Okay, and so one last thing that I've done here as a bonus for you guys, because I went and I investigated all this and figured out how to do it, I also went and looked at the NIF editor. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with the NIF editor, and this is for loading NIF 3D models. And you can actually go in and if you load a model, it brings up all the hierarchy of the model, sort of like metadata of how that file, that 3D model is made up. Now if you have a development cartridge like the Viewer64 or the partner, you can essentially use this to preview it. Now, so I went in and discovered it, and it's essentially the same process. And so for you guys here, I figured out how to do this for you. So now if we go in, I've added a load 3D NIF batch file for you guys and a 3D models folder. And so let's do that now. Let's bring up a NIF model and we'll hit enter here. So we select our location for the NIF model. And so I'm going to bring in a walk here, or say I'll do this NIF model here. Now it's actually NIF and NIFF. It can do both. And we're going to hit enter here. Make sure it's selected. Loads it in and converts it, and it's telling us to preview. And there we go. So now we can come over here, and it's just like the real thing on the Intelligent Systems Viewer64. So if you hit A, it actually runs through the animation sequence for that NIF file. And the same thing, you have menus that you can use to navigate through different things like the camera, the object, the fog, background color, animation, video, icon, and exit. So you can get out of that and you can actually animate it, but you can also, while it's animating, you can move around and zoom into the model itself, move around, move up and down, right? And then also rotate around. So it's pretty fantastic for previewing. And so I've just implemented this for you guys just as a bonus. And I think it's pretty awesome and fantastic. So we're going to be able to do some cool testing and development of our models prior to actually compiling. So it's pretty fantastic. Anyway, just thought I would show that to you guys. Let's just for kicks load one more model here. So the same process applies. It's prompting you to, so you hit enter, and it's asking you for the path location. So I'll throw in a walk here. This is another model. And we'll hit enter, throws it in, does the compile the very, very fast compilation conversion, and then just tells you to reset. So I hit reset there, and there it is. There's this walking sequence of a 3D NIF model, and moving through that. Anyhow, so thanks for watching, and bye for now.